So now that we have added start to the closed list, we can continue the A* algorithm. So the next step states that we need to calculate the values. And when I say values, I mean the F, G, and H values. And to do so, we will have to add some debugging information so that we can see the values on the screen. And we will also have to add a function or modify our function so that it can calculate those values. So actually, let's first of all create whatever we need out here in Unity to show the values. So if we go to the prefabs and find our debugging, then we have something called debug tile, and this tile will need some values on it so that we can actually see the F, G, and H values. First of all, we need to make sure that we can show some text on this tile. So we can right click on the tile, click UI, and select canvas. Or actually, sorry, I don't want to do like that. I want to click on add component and write canvas to make the tile into a canvas instead. And then I would like to make sure that the render mode on the canvas is world space so that it can move around in the world based on the tile's position. When you have done that, we can right click on the tile, click UI, and select text. And if we do so, we can see if we can find over here in the scene, you'll see the text is way too large, as you can see here, and it's very blurry. So we need to set it up so that we can actually see it on the tile. First of all, we would like to change the settings over here. We would like to say the font should be Courier New. So click on that one, or Carter 1, that's what it's called. So we have the correct font now. The font size, I would like it to be 60. Now you'll see that it's way too large to have inside this, but we'll fix that. And what else did I write down? Yeah, let's say 60. And the color, well, I would like it to be white. And then I would like to add a component. So if you click component here, I'm not sure if you can see all of it from my face down here. Click component and write out. Then we have outline. You click on outline to add that. You can just move it up. So you can see we have this outline here. And then we add the outline for 4 and -3. There we go. You can always change this as much as you want to. Yeah, okay. Now we have the outline. We will need to scale this text down so that we can actually see it on the tile here. So take the scale here and say 0.004 in X and 0.004 in Y. And then you'll see the text is very, very small now, but you basically can't see it right now because it's outside the screen. So we would need to move it to the right position. So let's take it and move it here with the move tool all the way over here and move it up so that we can see it right next to our tile here. And then we can move it in front of the tile. As you can see right now, it goes behind the tile, and that's because of the canvas order in layer, as you can see. So we can take and select our debug tile, go to the canvas component and find the order in layer and say it should be 3, for example. And then you'll see it goes on top of the tile. Down here it looks very blurry right now, but as you can see, if we maximize, we'll be able to read the text perfectly clear here. And it's not something we'll use a lot of time to adjust to make it look perfect, because it's only for debugging and for learning. So we will remove this later, so it's not that important that it's very perfect. You can take the effect on the outline and say the alpha should be turned up to make it easier for you to see the outline. And then we can move the text in and make sure that this one has the exact same size, almost the same size at least, as your tile here. You can make it a little smaller in the left and the right side, just to make sure it doesn't go over the edges there, also in the bottom and the top actually, just so it's should be a little smaller than the actual tile actually. Okay, with that in place, we can write F colon. So this one will display the F value, so we can rename this one to F, and right click and duplicate this one and call it G. And this one, G, will be placed in the bottom, so select bottom here and change the what's called the name to G. duplicate G, duplicate, and call this one H, and go over here in the text and write H instead. And when you've done that, you can select the right side over here. So now we have F, G, and H placed around the tile. So if you're playing maximized now, you should be seeing these letters here on the actual tile. When you've done that, you can select F, G, and H here and disable their game objects, like so. And then take the debug tile and drag it into your debug tile inside your prefab folder, and delete the tile from the scene. Okay, with that in place, we will have to add a new script. So go to your script folder, go to A star, and right click, create new C# script, and call it debug. What is it called? Debug tile, tile. Call this one debug tile. Open up the new script, and let's see if I can find it somewhere. There we go. There it is. And go to the debug tile here. First of all, we need to create some references to the values we have out there, or to the text we have out there, right? Because right now we have, let's see, where is prefabs, debugging, here. We have text here. We have an F, G, and H text, and we need a reference to that in the script so we can set the values from the script whenever we calculate the values in the game. So we can make a private text, and if you don't have text, right click, quick actions, using Unity Engine.UI. So we have this one up here, and let's call text F, private text G, private text H, and we need to serialize all these so that we can see them in the inspector, which makes it way easier for us to do this. When we have done that, we will have to make properties for all of them. So make a property for F, and if you can't, press Ctrl RE. You can just write this code here by yourself, or you can right click, quick actions, and encapsulate field, and do the same for G. Right click actions, encapsulate field, and H, right click, quick action, encapsulate. And then we have them down here. So we have F, G, and H, and this is because we need to access them from the other script. So yeah, we can do that one by one to make it easier for you to understand what's actually going on here. So now we have set up our debug tile. Go back to Unity, select your debug tile, click add component, and write debug, and add debug tile to it as a script. And then take F, move over to F, G, move over to G, and H, and move it to the H spot here, over here on the debug tile. So now we have all the references that we need to be able to show these values from the script, or from our code. Okay. So the next thing we'll have to do is calculate the G cost. So let's start with that. Go to your A star script, and in here we have a function called getPath. And inside this getPath, we will have to calculate the G cost. And we can do that right here after our if statement. It says if Lambda in bounds. And then we say integer G cost equals 0. So we start with 0, right? Because it's either going to be 10 or it's going to be 14. So we need to select one of those. So we can say if our math, and if you don't have math, just right click, quick actions, using system just system, and then we say ABS. Okay, so math ABS is going to return the absolute value, which means if you put -1 in here, it will look at it as if it was just 1. If you put -10, it would look at it as 10, and if you put 10 in there, it would look at it as 10, right? So you get the absolute value without negative numbers, basically. So we say math apps x minus y, and that's it. Okay, so if x minus y equals 1, then we're going to say G cost equals 10, and else we are going to say G cost, we're going to say G cost equals 14. And let's say, okay, let's explain this. Let's say that we have our tiles, right? this is one tile, one there and one there, and on the next line we have three more I mean, and on the third line we have 3 more, and in the middle here we have our start. So this is our starting tile. We need to know if it's a diagonal tile, or it's a tile that is like right next to it without doing diagonal moves. So as you can see here, if it's a tile above it here, we need to score 10. So this one needs to be 10, this one needs to be 10, this one needs to be 10, and this one over here needs to be 10, right? Because that's how we calculate all these things. And let's just do like this so it's easy to read. There we go. So 10, 10, 10, 10. So how do we do that? Well, we take x and minus with y, because if we are up here on this 10 up here, x is 0 because we are not moving left or right on x value, and y is 1 because we're moving 1 up. 0 minus 1 is equal to 1, so we score 10. If we're out here, x is equal to plus 1 and y is equal to 0 because we don't go up or down, we stay at the same vertical position. So again, 1 minus 0 is 1, and we go down here. Well, we have our values again. X is 0, y is 1, and yeah, 0 minus 1 is 1, and the same goes here. On the other hand, if we take this one up here and we need to score that 14, well, x is minus 1, y is plus 1, 1 plus 1, well, 1 minus 1 is 0. So we go down here and give it a 14 cost, because this one it will evaluate as false. So we will get 14 score. The same goes here, right? We go 1 out, that's x plus 1, and we go 1 up, that's y plus 1. 1 minus 1 equals 0. So we go down here and score 14, and so on. So that's why we're doing this if step here. And remember, math.abs, make sure that it's positive numbers. Even though we say minus x, it's actually plus x. Okay, so now we can score the G, but we need to write it on the tile so we can see if it's correct. So let's go to our tile script. We have a, actually not tile, sorry, we are working with nodes here. Let's go to the node. We have a calculate values, and this calculate values can actually take another parameter called integer G score. And we need to use that G score. So basically we can just say on our tile here, we make a, let's see, I need to check my notes to make sure. Yes, we are going to make a property. So make a property, we're going to use it later. So property integer G, just as well G, that's fine. And let's say that our this.g equals G score. So now we have set the G score, and that's it. For now, we will actually have to do it in another way, because remember, I'm not sure if we should do it now. Yeah, let's just do it now so it works. Remember, when we get further along the route, we need to add the G score of other tiles. So if I run this, I can't do that because I have some errors. Let's see here, we just need to add the G score. What did I call it? G cost? Yeah, G cost. It's also called the same in here, so we don't G cost. There we go, so we don't get confused. So we have a G cost. Let's say that if we run the game, and I click here and I click here, and we get here, we have a G score here of 10 because it costs 10 to move here, but this one over here will be 20, right? Because it's 10, 20. So to calculate this tile's G score, it will be the parent, which was this one, plus what it costs to move over here. So that will be 20, right? So we need to add the parent's G score as well. So to do that, we will have to say G is equal to parent dot G plus G cost. So my parent's G score plus the G cost is equal to this one's G, right? So that's the G score. Let's show this on the tiles actually. So let's go to our A-start debugger. And in here, somewhere we will need to make sure that we can actually see those scores on the what's called on the tiles. So let's see, we have a debug tile here, and let's say we need a node because we need to calculate. We need to know which node we need to take the G-score from. So we can say node equals null. So why I'm setting this to null? Well, if I don't set this to null, you'll see what happens here. If I do like this, we get some errors. And down here, when I'm setting my start and my goal, I don't have a node to add in because I don't have any node I clicked, right? I don't have the node yet. And we don't need the node at this point. So I can make a parameter that is optional. And to make it optional, I set it equal to something. Now we just set it equal to null. So this parameter here is not something I need to put in every time I call this function here. It's just something I need to put in sometimes when I need it. Okay, so right now up here when I call this function, I don't want to put in a node because I don't need it. But down here, when I create the when I run it through the open list to calculate the G-score and all those, well, then I need the node to be able to calculate the G-score. So I can say a node right here. Here we go. And you can argue we can just put in the node here instead of start. Let's see, we can actually, can we say what is start actually here? Start is a tile script and node is a node. Yeah, because it's a well positioned. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm just talking to myself. Don't get confused about that. Anyway, sorry for the confusion. If we go here, we'll see we are running through all the nodes in the open list and we need to calculate the values of them. Okay, so we need to put in the node so that we can use the node to calculate the G-score, right? Because the node has a G-score on it, and we need to take that G-score from the node and show it on the tiles. We can see in our debugging game that it works correctly. And the same goes for this one down here. Let's say no, that point to parent, sorry. I got ahead of myself. Down here in the closed list, we of course also need to calculate the value of the closed list, right? So we can say node down here. Later we will need this. Right now it's not needed because we don't have a lot in the closed list except start, but later we will need to calculate this. So now when we call this node here can be used to show the G-score. So we can say if node isn't null. So if we called this function and told it to put in a node, well, then we need to show something. So we can say debug tile.getComponent debug tile dot G, because that's a G-score, dot text equals plus equals node dot G. Okay, so what did I just do? Well, I'm running through every single tile in my open list, for example, and I have a debug tile for each and every one of them. And let's see if we can find it here. On my debug tile, I have something called G, and on that G there is a text. Okay, so what I'm doing here is that I'm saying, well, I just caught a debug tile, and I will say G.text to get the text plus equal the node G-score. And the reason I said plus equals is because G already has G written in it, and then it will just be G and the score, for example 10 or whatever it is going to be. And I need to disable this. So that's what this line of code does. If I run the code now, nothing will happen, or we won't be able to see anything, because if we delete this and run it and click here and press space, you'll see nothing is written here. And that's because the values here, these are not active. As you can see, these are disabled, these child objects. So we need to enable these, and we need to do that from our debug tile. Down here we need to say g.gameObject.setActive true, and we need to do the same for our age. So we can say age.gameObject set active true, and from f.gameObject set active true. So at some point when we try to access f to see the value to write it out, well, then we set the f object active so we can see it in the game. So let's run, click, and now we have a G-score calculated, as you can see. G is 10 in the sides here, and 14 down, square up here, as you can see. So now we have the G-score. Okay, so that's how we calculate the G-score. I can see this video is getting kind of long, so I'm going to end it here, and in the next video we will calculate the F and H score. Yeah, so thank you very much for watching, and remember to like my Facebook page, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it already. Also remember that Inscope Studios is a community founded page, so all your support is very important to me. You can support me on the Patreon page by clicking the top link in the description, and if you do so, you can get every single project that I've ever created for this YouTube channel. You can also support me by clicking the bottom link and support me by getting one of my projects as a standalone product.